It's episode 2, and we still haven't learned how to start a podcast.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? This is episode 2 of the Emo Social Club podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Lizzie.
Coming up on this episode today, we are going to be talking about the metoo movement in the music industry. So that's going to be a pretty deep section in the middle there. But we want to also come back at the end and talk a bit about the music industry and paying artists and how little money there really is in the music streaming and creation of music. Yeah. So Lizzie, you mentioned Lollapalooza. Warped Tour also happened.
Yes.
You went to both in
I
Chicago.
did.
Tell us a little bit about it. What'd you see? Who'd you like?
Oh man. So at Warp Tour, went to the one down in good old Tinley Park,
Yeah.
Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. And first band of the day that we saw was We the Kings. They played 3 songs. There was a union strike in the back.
What?
Yes. So they came out and pretty much they played 3 songs and played Check Yes Julia and everyone left.
What?
Yeah, it was really, really weird. And it was also like raining on and off that day.
Yeah.
So it was
What?
just
So there
really
was like a
wet.
union strike
Literally
on
with
the
yes, on the on it was Journey's left foot stage. It was on one of the main stages.
what?
I thought they were kidding or maybe they
Yeah.
had like technical issues, but they straight up had a union strike.
So like all the staff that was working there
Yeah,
for the
they just
day.
said no, we're not doing it. So it was about a 15-20 minute delay.
But was that at that was at the beginning
That
of
was
the
at the
day?
beginning, is first thing
So
of the
the
day.
first set.
Yeah,
We the
I
Kings
missed
is like, we're
because
going
they
on.
did
Oh.
that. I wanted to see the rest of their set, but I ended up missing Real Big Fish's
Yeah.
set, so I was really fucking upsetty about it.
Yeah.
And so that happened. It rained a bit. Then we went to go see 303.
Absolutely.
Went hard as shit to that. We got in their weird pit area because when you're at Hollywood Casino, they put it in the amphitheater this year.
Okay.
So they only let so many people down to the pit.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had to wait because Knuckle Puck was first. So that was
Okay.
a hot mess,
They had
obviously.
the 2 stages in there, so they were like
No, they
split
had the
in
one
half or
stage.
just one.
They
Okay.
put one stage and they put Journey's right foot in there and Journey's left foot outside, which was really weird because they're
Yeah.
usually back to back.
That was actually the same in Milwaukee too, and that was
Oh,
yeah, it was
I don't
strange
like
to me
that.
because in Milwaukee they used to do the 2 main stages inside the amphitheater,
Yeah.
just left and right. So you would just stay in the pit like that, and you could just watch all the bands all day.
Exactly.
But I didn't realize they did the same thing in
They
Chicago
cut it
this
up.
year.
Yeah, it was really weird. Nobody was really happy about it. Then afterwards, we stayed for Bowling for Soup. They brought out one of the little pug dog that they have out on stage, lifted him up like Simba.
Offended.
It was really
Go on.
cute. It was cute. Then we saw Simple Plan. I crowd surfed to I'm Just a Kid while crying. It was great.
Is it raining or are these tears?
At that point, it wasn't raining, so it was okay. So it was just my literal actual tears.
So it was tears.
It was my actual tears.
No, it's sunny out. It's definitely just a kid crying.
Exactly. And then I ran over and catch the last couple songs from the Grayscale when Simple
Nice.
Plan ended. So that was really cool. Then I went to Lollapalooza for 4 days straight and
Yeah.
2 after shows.
Yeah.
I'm a burnt chicken nugget. I'm a limp French fry.
100
I'm a
and a half
melted
degrees in
milkshake.
Chicago.
You know, I'm everything like that. I am so tan right now. For you listeners, I'm usually like really pale. I'm so tan. It looks like actually blood flowing through my veins. It's super weird.
For the video one, we're just gonna lighten this up quite a bit. So we're just gonna overexpose you so that you still look the same as you did before.
Exactly. Make me feel better about myself. But we went 4 days. I saw 2 after shows as well. So I actually was coming back. I was supposed to go see Franz Ferdinand,
Mhm.
and that was on Wednesday night at Park West. But my flight from Florida was coming in at like 10 o'clock at night. So
Mhm.
I missed that show, and I was really pissed about it. But it's okay because the next day we got our asses kicked because it was just so hot out.
Yeah.
The first band we saw was Slaves UK, and it's a punk band. I saw them at Riot Fest last year. And they actually are produced by Mike D from Beastie Boys.
Okay.
So they brought Mike D on stage last year with them, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really cool. And obviously he wasn't there this year.
Mhm.
But some kid came up to me and he's like, "Have you seen Scott Pilgrim?" I'm like, "Yeah, fucking course I have seen Scott Pilgrim." He said with me in all seriousness in his eyes and face, "They sound like that emo band Crash and the Boys. They're kind of indie." And I just was like,
What?
"Excuse you? What did you just say to me?" So there
I'm
was
not mad about that.
I was just like,
No,
okay.
like-
I'm like, oh, they're punk, and they're like, oh no, they're kind of indie. I'm like, whatever. Get away
mean,
from me. Get away from. Don't touch me anymore.
Crash
Don't
and
look
the
at
Boys
me.
was also kind of a punk band.
They were. So I gave it to him just a little bit, but
Yeah.
when he was like, this is very indie, I was like,
I
oh.
wouldn't. Yeah, Crash and the Boys. Like, that song was awesome. But that was
Right,
a very grunge
yes.
we're diluting, we're
We're getting to the
digressing right
point,
now.
yeah.
But anyway, we could talk about Scott Pilgrim
Yeah, we can always
too.
talk about Scott Pilgrim and the
Guys,
low-key
the
problematic things
second
that go in there.
Whoa, what?
Have you never heard those arguments?
About Scott Pilgrim?
Yes, about how he is the stereotypical scene fuckboy.
I'm not gonna be upset about Scott Pilgrim
Listen,
today.
I love Scott
I'm
Pilgrim too.
not
This is for another time. We're just saying. Anyway, I
Carlos
saw
is like, "No, no,
anyway,
no."
I saw Slaves and I got in that pit and it was like noon 30 and it was just too hot. I got fucked up. Then we went to go see Ally X, which was like this electro kind of spooky indie bitch. She was
Mhm,
really good. And then afterwards we saw a lot of people that day. We saw the Wombats.
mhm.
It's my fourth time seeing them
That's,
this year.
the
They're
dude
really good.
from 13 Reasons Why.
That was Wallows. My friend did see
Wallace,
them. My
that's
friend
it.
did see them and then went to their signing on
Yeah,
Sunday.
yeah.
She said they were actually very
A lot of
good.
W bands, yeah.
A lot of W
My
bands.
girlfriend's been playing their music for me, and it's like it's really good. I actually
Yeah,
really
she
like
said
it.
she said she was really surprised. She thought it was
Yeah.
just gonna be a bunch of fangirls ruining it, but she
Yeah,
said it
but
was
no,
pretty
it's
good.
like yeah.
Yeah. Then we waited for Arctic Monkeys for a good hour and a half because they were on the main stage. So we got like 8th row for Arctic Monkeys.
Okay.
So that was really cool. Then the second day, we started off by seeing Post Animal. We started
Mhm.
a crazy pit. If you saw those dust clouds, that was me and
Yeah.
my friends and a couple other girls we ran into. That was us. So that was a lot of fun. And then we died a little bit. And we also saw Vampire Weekend on Saturday.
Mhm.
We got like 8th row for them too. They played A-Punk 3 times in a row. It was great. People
Alright.
were pissed off about it. I don't know why. It's a banger.
Yeah.
Went off to Diane Young. Saw St. Vincent. Was really close for
Yeah.
her. An amazing set. She switched out her guitar. She has like all the colors of the rainbows of
Mhm.
her guitar. It's
Love
great.
that.
People didn't like that. Some
Yeah.
chick next to me, she's like, they all look the same though. And I'm like, but can you do what she does? No. You
No.
can't do that. I can't do that. You fucking can't do that. Um,
You do that.
you can't do that. Then I saw the Regrets.
Mhm.
Um, they did a really cool cover of the Ramones, Ballroom Blitz.
Very nice.
And I crowd surfed to that. Only over 2 people though, because there was a bunch of people there waiting for Jack White and who
Mhm.
were not tolerating my bullshit. So that was a thing. And then we also saw the Rex,
Mhm.
and I started a pit to that, and nobody was really happy with me, but it happened. Then I crowd surfed, and then they dropped me because the lead singer came down. It's a bunch of fangirls,
Mhm.
and they come up. He comes down like nearish them, I guess. They drop me, and they don't pick me up. They start running over me. And I'm like, "All right." So, you know how some people wear those hydro water
Yeah.
packs? So, one of the nozzles was hanging, so I grabbed the nozzle and I ripped
Ugh.
it down to pull myself up, and I elbowed one of the chicks, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Why did you drop me?" And I just, like, maneuvered myself back into the pit. I'm like, "I need to get out of here. I can't do this anymore." But it was overall a great weekend.
Yeah.
We went to 2 after shows. We saw Parquet Courts with Dreamwife at Talia Hall on
Mhm.
Thursday. They were really, really good.
All of those words didn't make sense to me.
Oh my god. Parquet Courts is so my friend tried to call them more of a punk band, but they're
I'm
more
so
indie
old.
rock punk. And Dreamwife ended up being this she told me it was an Icelandic female punk band and they kick ass. They were really,
Okay.
really good. Then the next night we saw
I've heard
Post
Dreamwife
Animal.
before. Now I
Yeah.
remember it.
And then we went to Post Animal at Empty Bottle on
Yeah.
Saturday
Nice.
night. That was cool. And I also over the weekend, I didn't know these existed. So this is an exclusive. I was almost in slash forced myself into an exclusive mosh pit.
Okay.
So it was
How do you
literally the band started. I don't want to name names because I have issues with some of these things.
Sure.
And they started a couple songs in, everyone's cool. Some dudes try to get involved who are not in this clicky, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And they're pushing them out saying, "Go away, we don't want you in here." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" So I thought I was okay. I was like, they're jumping around, we're pushing each
Yeah.
other. I seem okay. Few more songs in, like maybe 6 or 7 songs. I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then they start pushing me and my friend out.
Yeah.
And there's only like that same 6 of them and they're like making a wall when it's like during slow songs or in between songs. So me, my friend, and some other people can't get into this pit.
Yeah.
And it was the most ridiculous thing I have ever experienced. And I just think it's so bullshit because I can understand, girls only pits and, being
Sure.
safe and everything. But you're at a show for a band that has a lot of people who wanna get involved in it, and if they're not usually in a scene that allows you to do that in a
Yeah.
pit because it's not as upbeat or really welcomed at
Yeah.
that point, why would you exclude those people?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a huge load of bullshit. So that kinda killed my vibe a little bit. So just so you know, guys, apparently all exclusive mosh pits, exists in certain music scenes here, and they're bullshit. So what up? Come at me.
So, I'm going to start some exclusive, VIP only mosh
Will I
pits
have to have a
at our
wristband?
shows. Yes, you have to have
Okay.
a wristband.
Okay.
There will be, suited security guards standing in the crowd, making sure, and there's velvet ropes just surrounding it, like,
Okay, I'm so glad.
yeah, I love the idea that the VIP room isn't, like, off to the side of the stage. It's not, like, up in the top area, the top balcony. It's just, like, right in the middle of the
Yeah,
pit.
right in the middle of the pit, we're
Like
standing there, "Don't touch me.
like,
I can't believe you touched
you
me."
go to, like, Beat Kitchen, like, tiny little venue, and there's just, like, 2 giant dudes in a velvet roped off circle in the middle of it, like, "No, this is for VIPs."
Yeah.
I love that.
Isn't it great?
Yeah. Oh, man, the 1%. So, I went to Warped Tour in Milwaukee,
Okay.
which was, fine. I you know, again, I'm old. I think that's been
Yes,
mentioned
you
a few
are.
times that I'm
You
old
are.
based on my age
Yes.
and my knowledge of, all those bands you just talked about for the last 10 minutes. No, I went mostly for the bands that were for the nostalgia. I went with a few friends of mine who were into more new bands, which is cool. Like, I saw some new bands that I never heard of.
Did you see Dalskin? I saw Dalskin, that's
No,
who
I
I
didn't see Dollskin. My
okay,
friend wanted to
well,
see them, but
Dalskin fucks.
yeah, we ended up not seeing them. I did see another band called Sharptooth,
I've
which
heard of
is,
them.
like, very feminist. Loved them. She is
Nice.
awesome. I didn't get any of the band members' names or, anything, and I've only listened to maybe 1 or 2 songs, but, like, yeah, they were awesome. They were wild on stage. They were having a great time. I watched Every Time I Die because that's one of my favorite bands of all time. Caught my friends in, Harm's Way and, Sleep on It, so I saw them
I will
play.
say I wanted to see Sleep on It again because when I saw them last year at Riot Fest, the second song in at like 1:30 in the afternoon,
Mhm.
someone punched my sunglasses off my face and they broke.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, maybe we'll do it again." And they were playing the same time as 303
Yep.
was. So,
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
my first
Sorry.
Warped Tour, 2009, my dad took
Yeah.
me
Oh,
to
yeah.
see 303. Had to end it with 303.
Hell yeah.
Full circle.
We were fortunate that Harm's Way and Sleep On It were playing earlier in the day. So when we got there, like, everybody we got to see them, hang out for a bit, and then, later on, all the other bands were playing that we wanted to see. So that worked out. I'm trying to think of other bands that we really were, like, excited about besides, like, 303. We watched them. Yeah, to me, this lineup wasn't so like, this wasn't so much for me. Like, I wanted to go to see those smaller bands on the smaller stages. Necrogoblicon was fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I'm much more into metal and heavier music than, like, the pop punk stuff, and, like, I never really was into Mayday Parade or The Main, like, when they were putting out albums. Like, I knew a few songs, but not super into them. 3 I should say, I don't know why I'm saying, like, "I love metal," and then I'm like, "But 303 though," like, I was
But
like, "Oh,
listen,
shit," like, throwing up hands, like,
I mean, obviously, if you can't go off to, like, Punk Bitch and
"Oh,
Choke
yeah.
Chain, don't come
Oh,
at
I
me.
was, I
Good,
was."
you should've.
People were
I'm
like,
so
"Who's
proud.
this old man?" I don't even think I was the oldest person in the crowd for
No, I will
303,
say when
like
I saw 303, there was this weird dude next to us, and he had to be probably around your age,
yeah.
but he was, like, one of those kinda scummy
My
fucks.
day.
He was kinda like, "This is the closest thing near my house," and I'm, like, ready to go off, like one of those small town boys, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, no, get away
yeah.
from me."
I love that this entire conversation about Warped Tour has primarily resolved around 303.
I mean,
Like who's the band that you wanna talk about the most from Warped Tour? 303.
honestly, though.
Dude, but they were, like, great, like,
Yeah.
I loved their set. Someone, had mentioned to me, like, like, they're not really putting it on." Like, you could assume that a band like 303 was put together even back in the day, like, they were like, "Oh, it's kind of a joke." Like, these are 2 dudes that are, like, graduating college with, like, doctorates. Like, they were in school to be, like, super professional, like, "Nah, you know what? I wanna do this, like,
I wanna be a party
it's
girl for
like
the rest of my
yeah, this
life.
crummy hip hop act, like, whatever, and the idea that they've kept it going for 10 years and, like, they were doing the Warped Tour again and, like, their set was great. They had the drummer from the Somerset. I can't remember her name, but
Oh,
uh,
okay. We had every band we saw at the Chicago Warped Tour, from We the Kings to 303 to Bowling for Soup, Simple Plan came out
yeah.
every fucking time.
Jesus.
So it was like I saw Simple Plan before I
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
saw
they're
them
just, like,
later that
hanging
night. I
out.
was like,
Yeah.
"Well, what's up,
Yeah,
guys?"
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think Warped Tour was really good this year. You brought up that there was a tweet from someone, I think, kind of, proving us right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we called it first, being that we are, the experts on,
Yes.
the
Clearly,
music
here
industry.
we are on a podcast.
Podcast number 2, experts. Everything we say is proven right.
We have an old scholar here. We have a
Prefer
young
the word Rhodes
person in
Scholar,
there.
but sure, old
Mhm.
scholar.
Mhm.
So, there was an interview with Kevin Lyman after the final date, I assume this is from?
Yes.
So the final date just happened in, Florida,
Yes,
whatever
it
city.
was at the end of Lollapalooza weekend, so I think it was
Yeah.
August 5th.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Question was, will the brand live on in some way? And Kevin Lyman goes on to say, I think we're going to have a couple of 25th anniversary events next year. We're looking at July 4th weekend, maybe on the East Coast, and something in August on the West Coast. And then after that, who knows? Uh, I don't. It's kind of surprising that he's just like, this is the last Warped Tour. I don't think we're gonna do
And
anything
then I was
else.
like,
And they're just
"Oh,
like, oh, you're gonna do
JK."
something else? Yeah, probably. Like he seems to me like I'm ready to I don't know. Kevin Lyman has always struck me as the kind of guy who's like, I'm not really I don't want to say not professional, but he's just not like I'm going to go and do whatever I want to do. I'm going to talk about it however I want to talk about it. Like this is a dude who came up through Lollapalooza, like
Yeah.
working on Lollapalooza every year, and it's like I just want to do my own punk tour. Like it's not really like I have to be like secretive or I don't want to get the word out there too soon. I'm worried it's going to dilute my brand. Like he's not that kind of person. He's like I want to do it. I'm going to do it. Like it's the
And if I
25th
decide
year.
to do the opposite at some point,
Yeah.
whatever, you're
Whatever,
gonna
man.
like it anyway.
Whatever, man. Like, yeah, I think Warped Tour was just such a like party this year. I had heard that like, obviously ticket sales were doing really well. Chicago
Yeah.
sold out. I don't think Milwaukee sold out, but
A good majority of places did
yeah.
sell out. I
So
know there
like,
was a couple that sold out, like, I think a month or half a
yeah,
month in
yeah,
advance,
yeah.
which is completely unheard of.
So like, and somebody was saying, like I was so shout out to my buddy Bo in Harm's Way for getting me backstage a little bit. I never really go backstage because I like to watch the bands from the front, but I did go and hang out with him for a little bit later on. And I don't remember who it was when I was back there, but somebody was kind of mentioning like, in the past couple years, like nobody was showing up to Warp Tour. Like nobody was coming to it. There were stages with like 20 people at them. And like I think it was that they couldn't get the right bands or it wasn't like this big marketing thing around it that hey, it's the last one, you gotta come. And I think this year, like, they really blew it out for we're gonna have the last year. I saw, like, there were a bunch of bands that jumped on at the end of the tour.
Right.
As they got to East Coast, they had more, people jumping on. So, you know, great job, like, doing that. I also wanna say shout out to, I think he was the bassist from Issues. So after the day ended, I ended up going back by the tour buses and hanging out with my with Bo and we were hanging out with some of the other bands back there. Every time I die, I just had like one big speaker and Jordan Buckley's just like shouting things out. Like he's DJing, but it's like
Yeah.
mostly like Michael McDonald and like just it was a great set list, like playlist. But he was just like kind of like shouting out like the song is just
Oh
like
my god.
I'm a midnight toker. Boom, boom, boom,
That's
boom, boom. Like,
amazing.
yeah. And then I was over by Issues' tour bus and they were playing Super Smash Brothers. And I'm like, I like as geeked as I was about all the bands that were like
Right.
303 and all
But they're
this.
playing Super Smash
Yeah.
Bros,
I'm
man.
like, oh,
Can
and
I
they're
get
like,
in?
anybody else want to get in? I'm like, yeah, I would, yeah, I would like that. And so like, I
I'd be
sit
into
down
that.
and I just get fucking owned by this dude from Issues. Like, I'm like, so, all right, this is now going to be a divergence into me talking about Super Smash Brothers. I'm playing as Mewtwo, and this dude is just like playing as like Samus, and he's just coming for me. And I'm like, hey man, what did Mewtwo ever do to you? Like, sure, he like froze Ash into rock in
Yeah.
the first Pokemon movie, and then everyone who listens to this podcast has turned it off. So
They're like,
anyway,
"Wow, these are a bunch of
shout out to
fucking
the dude from Issues.
nerds."
I almost beat him when I was young Link in the last round I played, and I'm like, you know
Look at
what?
you. You're
I
almost
got
there.
second place. Like I'm good. So we just hung out for a bit. Uh, it was pretty neat. It was pretty neat.
Nice. And coming up next, we'll be discussing the Me Too movement.
So we're gonna talk about Me Too. We're gonna talk about the Me Too movement as far as it is in the music industry as a whole, as the music industry for emo bands, pop punk bands. Like we're gonna talk about it in different contexts. But obviously we are gonna get a little bit deep for this next section. We want to sort of address these things because we know there are people that aren't really talking about them, and I think that it's important that we do talk about them and not just talk about all the fun stuff that we do with our shows or the festivals we go to
Right.
or the concerts we go to. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to just sort of dive into some of the heavier stuff. And yeah, I know it's something I would want to hear. Lizzie, I don't know.
Yes, no, clearly, as, a woman in this entire,
Yeah.
existence, basically, it affects myself, and I know people who have been affected from it as well. So, but also trigger warning, we may or may not get graphic depending on what we end up rolling on into.
Mhm.
Some things obviously are very sensitive to certain individuals. So if you rather skip this part, that's totally
Yeah.
cool. But stick around otherwise if you do skip this part because we're gonna be talking about some other fun stuff after the
Yeah.
fact.
I'm gonna try to I don't wanna go over, like, obviously, when you talk about the emo scene specifically, you've got a lot of stories that, I think most of them have been on alternative press that I've read them.
Yeah.
There's some that have made it a bit more public, but a
To,
lot
like,
of these
Pitchfork or
yeah, a
Paste
lot of these
Magazine.
artists are kind of, under the radar from a mainstream standpoint. I'm referencing an article, in theconversation.com, which talks about how music hasn't had a defining Me Too movement. This is also something that Brendan Urie talked about in his, was that Paste Magazine?
I believe so,
Yeah.
yes.
He talked about it too, that there hasn't really been like a big music Me Too, movement. Um, so obviously when we talk about like the emo scene in specific, we talk about, the most recent one is, Will Francis from Aiden. You've got, Jesse from Brand New. Like, these are some of the stories that have affected, I know, you and I, and have
Yeah.
affected people within our scene, but these aren't really like the mainstream, this isn't as big in the Me
It's
Too
not
movement.
like this article from conversation.com references, like, R. Kelly
Mhm.
and his whole entire crazy sex
I
calls
mean,
with underage girls.
yeah, because then when you just think about, like, the big names, you've got R. Kelly with essentially kind of the same thing that Will Francis was doing,
Yes.
just with more money, I suppose.
Yes.
Like, I'm not trying to make, like,
And
a
has been more significantly public for
yeah. Yeah,
decades.
and I think that there's a weird equivalence thing there where it's like neither one of them is good, but I think that people around the stories about Will Francis, which again, I'm not gonna dive into them, like, they're on alt press, like,
Yes, they're on
I think
Alt
it'd be
Press.
best to
There is
just
a very long, somewhat
yeah,
featurey exposé of gathering of evidence from
yeah,
Alt Press about the whole William Control, Will Francis, BDSM
yeah.
sex cult. And there's
Sorry, I'm laughing,
also
that's not like
there's
this is gonna be a very awkward conversation, I think, so my laughing is
people
not
use humor
from
to
that.
help with the
Yeah,
awkwardness,
it
but
just is so, like,
it's so fucked
it's
up.
strange
It's
to
fucked up.
have listened to Aiden before and then to be like, "Oh, here we are 10 years later, like,
Right.
what the
Right.
fuck is
I mean, for
happening?"
myself, Aiden and William Control were huge, huge in my adolescence. I mean, I saw that was the first show that I ever went like
Mhm,
without a supervision from an adult.
mhm,
And it was the band that I saw their final tour when they came through Chicago, and I, got up stage and I cried and
yeah,
hugged William Control. But now, ever since all this comes out, it's really a disconnect because music that you've listened to that helped you get through really difficult time, it's like I can't listen to it anymore
mhm,
because that's supporting a really negative agenda and somebody who is an abuser.
yeah,
And while you have people go on both sides going back and forth saying there's not enough evidence, these people were consenting to this, but then you also have the underlying side of but these individuals were most likely underage
mhm,
or they were drugged or BDSM and bondage. There's so much you have to define where it
yeah,
is, and if some people don't understand where that defining
exactly,
line is, one person can think it's completely okay, the other person be like, "I don't know what to do, like, this
yeah,
is not okay," but if they're so young at the same time, or just because this is an influential rock star in their life,
yeah,
they're not gonna do or say anything.
and I think that's where because and I'm a straight white male, so I probably have the least amount to really, like, comment on this, like, just to be totally fair, like, I hope that most of what I say is taken as questions and not as like I'm telling you what
Right.
I think. Uh, but to me, the Me Too movement has been to say that these things are happening. They're bringing attention to what is going on and sort of saying that this cannot be allowed to continue and giving pressure to companies that work with people, to just anyone gets hired by these people, anyone who works with these people, and saying we do not believe that these people should be given a platform anymore. We don't believe that anybody should choose to work with them. We think that this is time to step away from these people who are just awful to the women that are associated with their projects.
Well, these are also can be people who are, either gender non-identifying as well or even
Mhm.
males. That's another thing that a lot of people don't realize that, males are also abused in these
Yeah.
situations as well, but nobody's going to really, look at that.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't it the Old Spice guy? I'm blanking on his name, but with the whole Harvey Weinstein situation,
Oh, Terry Crews. Yeah.
Terry Crews
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
"I
yeah.
was sexually assaulted by him," but people were saying, "Well, you're big enough. Why didn't you fight him off? Why?"
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
People are
that
really
whole
weird about
negative
it.
stigma as well. And I think a lot of people only divert it only to female only because it
Mhm.
is quite the majority of the population are women who are being affected by this.
Yeah.
However, we also have to look at the smaller categories of individuals who are equally being, you know, put under this.
Yeah. I think too, like in the Me Too movement has been more focused on the movie industry, the television industry. It hasn't really looked at, to be fair, like industries that aren't public, industries that are the office building nearby or whatever.
Right.
It's not looking at those, but we're looking at what's in the public eye to say that these people that you see and you listen to or you watch in movies or stuff, these aren't good people. And you need to be aware these aren't good people in order to stop them from having the ability and the power to bring down whoever they're bringing down, to control and manipulate and have these relationships with these people to, in whatever way they're doing it. Because we mentioned R. Kelly, who of course is like, is very much the Me Too of sexual assault, but then you have somebody like Chris Brown who continues to
Right.
have songs on the
And he
radio.
also is still continuously has, allegations against him coming
Yeah,
across where he's beating up women
yeah,
still, or he's getting arrested for drug and alcohol charges and also like aggravated assault. But
yeah.
he's still popular and people are still accepting him.
And I think that in my mind, this is what has not contributed to a Me Too movement within the music industry is that a lot of artists in the music industry, even though these things have come out way before the Me Too movement was, doing as much as it's doing now, these are people that have committed crimes, have been arrested for crimes, and yet are still listened to, still played on the radio, still get
So
tours,
supported.
still supported. And I think that that's where we haven't done enough within the music industry. I would say if we're bringing it back down to the local or not local, but the emo scene within our culture, Ronnie Radke was on Warped Tour.
Exact and even I know With Confidence had basically kicked out their old
Mhm.
lead singer, but he was accused of assaults.
Yeah,
And I feel at that same time, it's like, okay, but why are we still allowing
and
fans to be on here who have this
yeah,
history? Because it's not always saying, "Oh, if one does it, everyone does it."
right,
At the same time, though, it's saying, "But did they know? And did they
right,
have that ability to stop it?"
right.
Like, not this is obviously not in the emo scene, but Brockhampton played at
Mhm,
Lollapalooza, and Amir, one of their lead people, one of the, like, 18 people in that band, was accused and pretty much somewhat more proven by a former girlfriend that he was abusing her, manipulating
mhm,
her. It was basically everything completely awful, but the entire band lived in one house.
yeah,
And she said everyone knew, but no one did anything about it, or they just
yeah,
didn't talk about it. So there was maybe for like 3 weeks, I think at the most, that most people were like, we're not listening to Broadcast anymore. Like,
right,
they're crap. They're pieces of shit. They went underground, released their album, then magically everything's okay because they kicked Amir out of the band,
yeah,
said, "Oh, we didn't know about it. It's okay," and goes to play like shows like Lollapalooza and
right,
have it's rows and rows of crazy kids and people going off to them. And I feel like with that, we're not holding everyone responsible at the same time
mhm,
because yes, one person does it, but there's other people who are there to, maybe not witness it, but to know these individuals enough
mhm.
to an extent to be like, "Okay, yeah, maybe this person has anger issues. Maybe they might go off
Yeah.
on this. Oh, I know that he does these things to the girlfriend, or boyfriend or whomever, but that's okay. That's their relationship. I won't get involved in it." But I mean, you go to places too and you see like, sexual assault, like these are the warning signs, these are warning
Mhm.
signs of abuse and everything. I think the fact that we, as our subculture has gone, align ourselves obviously very emotionally to a lot of this music that we listen to, which
Mhm.
is great because it helps a lot of people. But the negative side of this is that so many people align themselves emotionally with it that when and if it ever happens to where their favorite band or like favorite artist is all of a sudden in the midst of like abuse and sexual assault scandals,
Mhm.
they're gonna say, "Oh no, it's okay though. They would never do that. They helped me get through like this really dark time in my life." It's like,
Yeah.
great, awesome. But I also like saw a tweet a couple days ago and they said, "Oh, who still fucks with brand new?" And somebody's like, "Who hasn't had Wi-Fi for the last
Uh,
year?"
a lot of people still fuck with
I
brand new.
understand that. I saw also another tweet from not a Chicago emo night, but some
Mhm.
other state emo night saying, "Is it okay for us to still put brand new on our playlist?"
Yeah,
And I mean,
I hope people said no.
no, there was people who legitimately
Yeah.
said it's okay because they said, "Oh, Jesse Lacey, he confronted it, he accepted it, he said he screwed up and he got help, and his wife said it was okay and they're moving past." And
Yeah.
it's really not because sure, science fiction came out and it was really good, but as soon as those sexual allegations come out, it's saying, okay, he still took full advantage and abuse of his
Mhm.
power as somebody in a higher position.
Yeah.
And in that traditional rock star position, he took advantage of younger girls.
Yeah.
That's not okay. And if you continuously support somebody, in my perspective, who is okay with exploiting younger girls for their own personal gain or
Mhm.
even younger fans in general, that's not okay in
No.
any sense. These are kids.
So, I guess I mean, what I've kind of realized about, the Me Too movement as far as it relates to music is that, you know, I don't watch House of Cards anymore since Kevin Spacey was
Right.
accused and he was kicked off the show. I don't watch House of Cards. I'm like, "Okay, I don't need to watch that." But when you say, "Hey, Jesse Lacey did this," and then you have, brand new on your playlist and uh, we were playing brand new songs, at a show the day that the news like came out. And so we were like, I don't know if we should play this. And there are people that still fuck with brand new because of what brand new helped them get through. About because of what the lyrics were, what he was going through that got people through it. Uh, I think that there is a certain trouble with separating the art from the artist in music to
Yes.
where, I disagree overall with cancel culture. I do agree with not supporting things you don't approve of. So if you find out that, a company tests on animals and you don't wanna use their product anymore, you shouldn't use their product.
Right.
But the idea that you should go to the company and shut them down, I also don't agree with. Like, you should allow the company to correct its business practices, but if you don't wanna shop there anymore, if you don't wanna buy their products, you don't have to.
Right.
I think that needs to be an internal thing and not a all of the culture needs to come together to say, "Shut this company down." The company shuts down because enough people agree, absolutely.
Right.
I think that Brand New breaking up and Brand New not going on tour anymore comes at a really good time for people to say, "I'm not," I you can't go to a Brand New show anymore.
Right.
It
It's not
works out.
there's no yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, uh, it's harder to sorry. I think that it's harder to separate art from the artist in music because of the emotional attachment we have to music, more so than some movies, some actors, some TV shows, producers, like Harvey Weinstein produced all the Kevin Smith movies. The
Right.
Kevin Smith movies aren't ruined for me because he gave money to them, even though Kevin Smith has said it taints
Right.
my
And
role
I
in
mean, Kevin
those.
Smith has even come out and said that the money that that's going
Yeah.
all those movies are making out are going to people
Is going to
who
women directors. Like,
exactly.
we want more women in the movie industry to sort of counteract this problem
Exactly. So
of powerful
he's
men.
trying to make it positive
Yeah,
in light of everything that's happening because he's going to say, "Yeah, I'm still gonna make money off it either way. I can't do
yeah,
anything about it, but I'm gonna do something with those net profits to help
yeah,
benefit other people, those people who were primarily affected."
yeah, and I think that we should give time to people to change, but I also think that if what they've done is more than you're willing to forgive, then don't forgive them.
Right.
Then you don't support them in whatever way you don't wanna support them. Uh, I think it is something that, you know, you can pressure somebody like you can't pressure them now, so this is sort of a moot point, but you could pressure Warped Tour to not have Ronnie Radke on the tour and
Right.
say, "Ronnie Radke has done these things. We don't want him on the tour." Uh,
And you can do it as much as you want till you're
yeah,
blue in the face if you feel
if you
that
feel
it's getting
strongly about it,
somewhere.
I am on board with that. But I do understand where people are like, "No, I am going to go and watch Falling in Reverse at Warped Tour. I'm going to go watch, if there were brand new shows after this news came out,
Right.
I'm going to go and watch them. I'm going to listen to brand new. I'm going to want to hear it at emo nights because to a certain extent, I do think there's one thing to be said about the singer being accused of this and someone else in the band
Right.
because generally the singer is the one who writes all the lyrics and they're the ones that you gravitate to the most.
Right.
Uh, so someone like Jesse Lacey who wrote the lyrics, who was talking about issues that were affecting him that other people gravitated to, that they connected with, and then for him to have done this does cause a rift between the artist and the audience. I think that, there was uh, Pierce the Veil's drummer.
Yes, I remember.
There's that, and they just said, "Okay, he's not with the band anymore," but they continued. So to your point about the other member of the band, it's like you have an easier time separating the art from the artist when the artist was not the one
The main
playing.
face,
Yeah, the main
basically.
face, the singer, the one whose voice you hear, the one whose words you listen to, like that person has the majority of the hold on you from their musical influence to you.
Right.
And so I can understand where someone has the problem of disconnecting themselves from what that meant to them and still wanting to hear that music. I just also agree, we don't play brand new anymore. No emo nights in Chicago will play brand new. It's something that I completely agree with. I think that we need to take a stand on that, but I understand why people are still asking for it.
Right. I mean, and it is hard because of those main reasons, and that's
Yeah.
why I've seen, both sides have very strong argumentation with that
Mhm.
and saying, "Oh, it's just the artist." The other argument to it is that's their personality that they're putting into a song,
That's
and
who
that's
you
the
are.
yeah,
If you were
exactly.
doing these things at the time you were writing these songs, what's to say that these songs aren't in some way related to what you're doing? Especially because most people write about their own experiences, their own life, their own inner demons and their own turmoils. And like, if that's the turmoil you're having at that time, it's hard to believe that that didn't bleed into the music that you're writing.
Exactly.
So, in a way, I kind of get why there hasn't been the Me Too of saying we're saying no to these things. Um, they're again, not cancel culture, but saying we don't want these people supporting what we love. We love Warped Tour for what it is. We don't support this artist being on Warped Tour. We don't support this artist playing in this festival. We don't support their concerts. We don't go to this thing. I think that the Me Too movement hasn't moved into that as much because of the fact that there is this struggle of disconnecting the art from the
Yes.
artist within
I
music.
think the other issue is too because with the Hollywood Me Too movement, you have Harvey Weinstein coming out and he was doing these
Mhm,
awful things for decades to
mhm,
numerous amounts of people.
mhm.
And where you don't really have that too much in our scene, where it's only like 1 or 2 people, or it's like, maybe 10 or so, and it doesn't discredit anything. That's incredibly fucking awful that
Mhm.
people are doing this to other people. I think though, because everyone is into shock culture and saying, "Oh my god, they
Yeah.
did that." There's enough numbers behind it.
Yeah.
I think people in our culture or within music will have to have relative enough evidence of numerous amounts of people from whoever it comes out to be. It's saying this person abused, sexually assaulted, manipulated, etc., so on to all of these individuals.
Mhm.
And then I feel that's when it's going to have the big breakthrough of a Me Too movement within the music industry, whether it's in our culture or whether it's in overall popular music
Mhm.
culture, which is incredibly fucked up and sick to say. But you do have a lot of people now because of fake news and everything like that. I need to see numbers. I need to see everything.
Yeah, if a woman
So
says
it's
it, we trust. I
yes.
think that's, like, simple rule. If and not just women, but if anybody says anything, like, if anybody says, "This happened to me," I think we just we take it. I think that it's okay to be a little like we want some more information, but I
Right.
also think that like the idea of shutting down what somebody says because it goes against what you believe isn't
Right.
right. I mean, everybody is due their day in court, whether that's, the court of actual,
Court.
court
Yes.
or the court of public opinion. Again, cancel culture shouldn't be so ready to jump on somebody because somebody says something, but they should be wary of that person's behavior.
Exactly, and I mean, that goes on both sides. That goes on people who are cancel culture be like, "Oh, no, this person committed sexual assault," and then they cancel them.
Mhm.
And it's also on the same saying, "I'm gonna cancel you as an individual because you said that you were, raped and sexually assaulted
Yeah,
by this band person or artist,
yeah,
and I don't believe that because I've met that person, like, 3 times, and they would never
yeah.
do that." You have to give the benefit of the doubt to someone, especially in those types of situations where it is incredibly sensitive.
Mhm,
And, if these people have been assaulted or abused or something, that's incredibly triggering for them.
mhm. So I think the solution we can both agree on is hire more women in all
Yes.
levels of the music industry, from producers to labels to artists. Have more women artists, have more women bands,
Have
have
more
more,
women in management,
yeah,
photographers,
yeah.
merchandise.
Uh, because not saying that women are not, I don't want to say women aren't sexually assaulting, but certainly having more people involved in the industry is going to potentially, hopefully, and ideally reduce the amount of these sort of instances happening. Reduce a culture where this is okay, where we sweep it under the rug. Reduce just I don't know. I hope that that's the solution, but also like
You can hope it, and then you
yeah,
just hope that a lot of people go out and push
yeah,
for it. I do follow a lot of women in this industry on
mhm,
Twitter, which I know doesn't help a lot, but they're always tweeting and saying like, "Hey, this other person's looking for
mhm,
their next gig. Who can help them out? Like this person has an awesome portfolio. Here's a portfolio of all their stuff. Here's a list of all like female or even non-gender binary defining individuals that you can hit up if you wanna do this. And usually from what I've seen, a lot of the women and non-identifying individuals in this industry are very supportive of each other.
mhm,
And we really need, I mean, this is a very male-dominated subculture,
yeah.
white male-dominated subculture, 100
It
fucking
is.
percent, and you cannot deny that. That'd be a perfect time for you to zoom in on my face, like
Yeah, right.
but so therefore those people, those individuals who are in charge have somewhat more of a responsibility than to help project and to assist these women
Mhm,
to, you know, get out, either bring to light more of these situations and to also, work in these industries and not be asking by people, "Oh, are which dude are you fucking in this band?" Which is never almost never the
almost
case.
never the case.
I mean, I've worked at shows. I worked at a show at House of Blues a couple years ago, and all the guys I were working with were able to go up. I came a couple minutes late, and I had to wait 15 minutes for the female lead of the band I was working with to come down and get me because they didn't believe me. And I was like, "This is ridiculous."
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens, and, yourself as, a white male, as anybody in charge, you have a responsibility,
Oh,
right, to help.
I am not in charge of anything. I have taken a very strong role as listening to everybody and working together with everybody I can. So
There's that.
I hope that I'm
He's a good group collaborator.
yeah, I hope I'm doing my part as basically the face of the problem.
So you think you can make it as a musician? Well, let's discuss that.
All right.
Yeah.
In our last section here, we wanted to talk about some information that has come out in the past few days about the money that artists make through streaming services and within the music industry.
And a lot of the things that people say when you say, I want to go into the music and entertainment industry, the first thing that you are always, always told if the person deeply cares about you is one, you are never going to make that much money.
So I am pulling this info from a tweet by David Crosby of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. For those of you who are younger, they are your dad's favorite band.
Or maybe your grandpa's favorite
Or your
band.
grandpa's
You know,
favorite band.
yeah.
I don't know. However,
Very
so
vintagey.
super vintage. This tweet is actually in black and white. Um, so for the video, you can see it, but, for our listeners, he tweeted, "Recent numbers, per stream." Uh,
This dates
these
back
are
to August 2nd of 2018.
yeah, so very recent, and, these are all in dollar amounts. I say that, but it's actually in cent amounts. Uh, I'll just do the big ones here, like Apple Music, you get 0.00735 cents per play. Google Play 0.00676, Spotify 0.00437, YouTube 0.00069. Nice. So the the money that you make from viewing music, the actual music
Yes.
product, putting the music product out there to an audience that may be super digestive of it, super into what you do, they do not pay you.
No,
He
not
says
at
here,
all.
get your song played a million times and get less than $5.
Yeah, the usual. Well, according to Pace Magazine, they broke it down a little bit more. It says that it's about $5.16 billion that is cut off from the $43 billion that the
Mm,
overall everybody else within the music industry, like, executives,
right.
maybe some managers, handlers, whomever. So it's about what is it, like almost 12% that artists
Yeah.
actually get, if not less,
Yeah.
which is a lot of bullshit because you're the one hustling and kicking
Now,
everyone's ass.
yes, I may have a very controversial opinion on
Is
this.
it spicy?
No,
Oh,
I don't think it's spicy. I mean, Napster, which was the
yes.
Spotify of the mid to late 90s. It was related to LimeWire, if
Yes.
you know that.
Oh, yeah, I do. Trust me.
Kazaa,
I know LimeWire.
BearShare. Anyway, uh, I never had any of them, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
But, we decided in the late 90s as a collective society that music was not worth what people were asking us to pay for it. We decided that music should be free. Music should be accessible anytime we want it. Music on the internet is how we want to consume it. We don't want to go to a store and buy a CD. We don't want you to mail us a CD if you ever did those
Yeah.
like mail CD
The
things.
mailers.
Yeah, like we don't want music that way. We want music as a basically we have whatever we want whenever we want it, and we want it in the smallest possible device that we can listen to wherever we are, however much we want to. And I agree with that. I am firm believer that music should be as accessible as possible.
Right.
And if that reduces the cost or the amount of money that is paid to an artist, it's just kind of the business. Uh, I also think that there are way too many artists. There's way too much music.
There's too many people who say, "I'm in an indie rock
Yeah,
band."
I don't think we need as many bands and as many artists out there overall. Uh, I think that there's just way too much in music. I also think that new music doesn't sell. I think that what sells is older music
Or stuff that sounds like older
or
music.
stuff that sounds
If
like
you
older
listen to a
music.
lot of, even like indie rock or indie pop, anything like that nowadays, it sounds like the '80s,
Yeah.
which I hate '80s music. But a lot of people like '80s music.
Our bassist said it's not 80s music. It is the 2018 version of what 80s music sounded like. And it's not like because they'd had to do everything like in the 80s, they had to do everything. Now you just have a plug-in in
Right.
your in whatever you're writing with, and it sounds like the 80s, but no one's actually writing 80s style music because you don't have the synthesizer. You're not in a studio recording it
You're not
live.
hopped
Like
up on cocaine. Maybe you are, I don't know.
I still think that people are
Be
hopped up.
safe.
I don't think the music industry's changed that much. I mean, maybe with these amounts, you can't afford as much cocaine,
Yeah,
but
be safe.
the music industry is the same. I don't know. I guess I'm not super surprised by it because the majority of the music industry is things like, the biggest artists in the world performing on the biggest stages, selling the most for their concerts, putting on giant shows. And I do think that smaller bands are going to get left in the dust because there isn't enough money for them.
Well, you also have to see a lot of these larger artists and bands, they have sponsorships
Yeah.
for, different products,
Like a lot of the money's
for
not coming
doing
from music.
exactly, and that's the thing. A lot of people like Katy Perry is sponsored by Sephora. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
wear makeup, but she's sponsored by one of the really large brands and she also has her own makeup line.
Yeah.
So there are people who have that capability and accessibility
Yeah.
because of their stardom to say, "Hey, I wanna do the sponsorship and create this line." Like
Yeah.
Rihanna's up there.
Yeah.
She's partying, good for her.
I mean, Rihanna sells a lot of music, but Rihanna also is a
She has
cultural person. Like
and she
you,
also has Fenty. She
yeah,
has her new lingerie,
yeah,
all-inclusive sizes and shapes and
yeah,
shades of color for people. So she's doing it really well, but people who are in smaller bands, like, you know, Paramore, arguably, they probably make somewhat of a decent amount,
mhm,
but I also don't believe that they're making as much as obviously like
no,
Coldplay or Gwen Stefani even,
no.
so
I mean, I think Panic at the Disco's tour was enormous, and
yes.
Panic at the Disco has been pretty successful with their last couple albums, especially like coming out with the new stuff now and just getting it all over the place I don't know if
Everything,
it's on
everywhere.
radio or I
It
don't listen to the
is.
radio, but
It
yeah,
is.
like his songs are being played everywhere, and I still think that he's probably not making a lot from music. I think
No.
he's making a lot from his concerts, but also just like placement deals and all that.
And being
So
on, like, Broadway and Kinky
yeah,
Boots
yeah,
for
yeah.
one.
So the idea that like artists are rich, the idea that artists are making a ton of money from making music, I just don't think like I think that this is a moot argument. I don't think that the argument should be, "Oh, bands aren't making all the money in the music industry." It's like, no shit. Like bands are making money from being a musician. Like I am a musician and now I also do this. I also do this branding deal. I also do these concerts. I also appeared on this TV show. You know, that was the old way of doing it where you sold CDs. You had music videos on MTV. Now you can watch the music video whenever you want on YouTube. So
Right.
like
Or most
there's
people don't even look at the music video anymore. They just pop a Spotify or iTunes and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, look at that."
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I get where someone is coming from saying, "Oh man, like no money is being paid out to these artists." It's like, fine, but that's just the way it is now. Like business and technology has changed in the years from when Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was
Yes.
playing. Like, sure, David Crosby can't make a bunch of money on his music anymore, and that's okay. Like, you have to evolve. You have to work within the industry
There
as it
has to
is.
be the realization
Yeah.
and acceptance of the fact that no matter what you do, music is never going to make
Yeah.
you money straight from solely being a musician.
Exactly.
It's going to make you money from being a musician with stardom power and influence and working and collaborating outside of that
Yeah.
bubble
Yeah.
of within your band or your
Like, be a
art.
part of the culture to make and I'm not gonna play this game like, "Oh, you need to be like this rich person and have all this luxurious stuff." Like, we used to think the rock stars had, like, the biggest houses and the nicest cars and, like, maybe, but also, like, it's nice of the idea that you could be a musician for a living and do what you love every single day and make money enough to support yourself doing it. I don't think that like it's a bad thing if you're a musician who loves their craft, loves making music and loves touring. And if you can support yourself on that, on the paycheck that you get from that, then I think that you're set. I don't think that you need to make more money by like integrating yourself into like the public eye. You know, I'd say like I think it's weird that Portugal the Man is like such a big band right now because they were like this weird hardcore shreddy band back in the day. And now it's like, oh, but they're played on the radio all the time.
It's
They
like,
have like
"Hey,
these
look, it's
pop
Feel It
songs out.
Still," and then they had, I think, like, a God, I don't even remember, I spaced out, it had to be I saw some of their set at Lala too.
Yeah.
It was like a 4 to 6, 7-minute, like, weird psych rock
Yeah.
jam band
Because
song, and
that's
I
who
was
they
like,
are. And then like,
that's and, the audience with a lot of, like, the dads and the moms that were in there, they were definitely digging it.
sure.
I zoned out, and then I
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, look, Feel It Still."
Because our culture is like, I want a 3.5 minute pop song.
Exactly.
I think generally the
Yes,
culture
I'm pretty
wants
sure their entire set, "Feel It Still," was most likely the shortest song that they
yeah.
played.
But I think that if you decide as Portugal the Man, Portugal the man, like if you're like, that's who I want to be, I want to get more from writing some popular music, getting it played on the radio, getting bigger tours, playing the main stage at Lollapalooza, go for it. But not every band's going to want to do that. Not every band
Right.
needs to make more money within the industry. Not every band or artist is living up to that as their standard. And I think that we look at these articles like $43 billion were made and artists only got 12% of it. It's like if the artist is happy with 12% of $43 billion, then that's not an issue.
Right, it just depends. Everyone has different needs and
Yeah.
wants that they need to be met, so everyone's going to have a different perspective on it,
Yeah.
obviously, so
I think coming in, like if you're, you know, I always hear people asking people like, well, what do I do if I want to be a musician and I want to go into this industry? And do you have any advice for like people up and coming? It's like, yeah, just be realistic. Like, know that this is the statistic. You're entering into an industry that has a very small piece of pie for you, and you're fighting tooth and nail for a very small piece of that very small piece of pie. And if you're okay with that, then be okay with it and just be realistic with what you want, what your goals are. Sit and think about what you really want out of it. And then be satisfied if that's all you get. If that's not for you, then that's okay.
Right.
I think that it as you as you get to be an older musician and you start to realize like if I don't keep doing this, then David Crosby is like, that was my job. Like I've been a musician for however
Forever.
many years. Yeah. So that's my job. Now that I'm not making as much money at my job, I don't have any other industry to move into. I don't have anywhere else to go. So fine, but also like that's not really the audience's fault. That's not the consumer's fault. That's the fault of an industry not evolving along with the customer, with what they're demanding. We want your music for free. Well, we can't give it to you for free. Cool. Well, we're going to go listen to the guys that are.
Yeah.
We're going to go listen to who is giving it to us for free. And we're going to enjoy that. And we're going to consume a lot more music, but you're not going to get anything from the music we consume. And I think that, I think that's an older thing than a younger
It's
thing.
okay.
I think the younger bands are coming in a little bit more realistic. They're still hungry, their eyes are still wide, but I do think that like the music industry has changed and it's done. Like the
Yeah.
change is over. We're not
We just have
talking
to
about
accept
how
it.
yeah, we don't want it to go back. We want it to go forward. Hopefully people catch up with that.
Yes.
We'll hopefully be having new episodes for you soon. We have some interviews lined up that we are going to be talking to some different people about some of the same issues today, some new things, local concerts in Chicago. Just to give a few quick plugs for Taking Back Emo. We just announced that we are doing a monthly night at B Kitchen on the last Wednesday of every month. The first one is going to be a full play of the From Under the Cork Tree album. So the band will be playing that, but we're gonna do like a big blowout for B Kitchen, make it like a really cool event. So definitely check that out. The first one is Wednesday, August 29th. And then we'll be repeating that every month, announcing new albums after that. We're also doing August 31st at Dirty Nelly's in Palatine. We have September 1st at District Bar and Grill in Rockford. And then I think that's September. We have September 8th. We're doing a post Fall Out Boy show, but that is sold out. So sorry you can't get tickets for it, but I am going to keep talking about it because
It's
that's
pretty cool. It's
that's
gonna
nice to
be cool.
say. Yeah, Lizzie, do you have anything you want to mention that you're doing?
Well, obviously, I work for 93XRT, so we will be having this really cool concert that we just announced with Death Cab for Cutie as a Studio X show. So it's basically at a really, really small venue compared to the larger venues that bands play. So you'll have to go online to see if you can get in. But if you win, I will see you there at our undisclosed location, and I'm going to be crying too, even though Ben Giffords just said that emos are just pop punk kids who listen to Pinkerton by Weezer.
God, I love that. You can find all of our stuff on the Emo Social Club Facebook page. If you just search Emo Social Club, most of the stuff for Taking Back Emo's posted on there as well, and Taking Back Emo's page, Instagram for both, Twitter. I'm not so good at.
Twitter is at X Emo Social Club X.
Yeah, you'll if you tweet at us, you'll be talking to Lizzie.
Yeah,
I can
because he
almost
doesn't
guarantee
understand how to
that.
do it.
I don't like it. Instagram is mostly me though, so if you want to hit us up, we can respond to you through there. If you are listening to us on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or whatever podcatcher you use, leave us a 5-star review. If you leave us a comment in there, we will read it on the next episode. So we want to hear from you about whatever. Yeah. So thank you guys again for listening to the second episode. Really appreciate you. Love you. Just do the little heart
Little.
thing
Imagine
to the
this is a black
camera.
heart in my hand.
Oh yeah, and if you want to see the video, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
We
If you
have
want to see our awkward faces.
IGTV. We're actually filming this natively in IGTV. Holy shit. Breaking
Amazing.
the internet,
Early
using
adopters.
the internet for its intended purpose. All right, thanks guys. I'll catch you next time.
Bye.